friends a little bit in public health is that all the advertisement and condoms and those sort of things that were particularly strong in the 90s and up to around 2000 something definitely had an effect in the publicity. However, the AIDS for various segments of our population just has gone up again.
Oh, yeah.
And it becomes like disregarding because there are these drugs out there that might protect them or whatever else, and things have been around so long, different generations are not processing that earlier information, and therefore engaging in main thing is probably still needle sharing and dangerous sex.
Yeah.
And very interesting culturally. I know some folks that did some studies in Mexico years and years ago, and there was a different definition on who had a masculine role and who had a feminine role in among gay populations. And the one that had a masculine role was the activo, as it was called, and didn't see him being himself at all exposed to what he was doing. Only the pasivo, the receiver, if you want to say, of that sex act. And so that was a big thing in terms of socio-cultural stuff. But so much of this, so anyway, I think it's a mixed bag, but I have no, I used to be pretty close to, I was an advisor to in public health in Alaska in the late 80s and 90s, but I completely lost track of all that stuff. Comment.
My interest nowadays, in diseases nowadays, obviously there's still a lot of diseases that are caused by viruses, that are caused by bacteria, but we've seen such an increase in diseases, self-inflicted diseases, like diabetes and things like that. In our country, which don't particularly have a pathogen, but they are truly diseases that are killing people and disabling them. And you know, I don't know enough historically about disease, but is there something in the past similar to that? Because, and in addition to that, there's been an increase in autoimmune disorders, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis. We live in an area where multiple sclerosis is just skyrocketing. My sister has it, my ex-father-in-law had it, my brother-in-law has it. I mean, it's everywhere, right along this area. And it's not a pathological disease in that there's not some type, well, they still aren't sure why people develop MS, and there is some speculation that maybe there is exposure to some virus at some point in their life. But
like even some heart disorders.
Yeah, and so,
yeah, point taken.
I know that that's not like the focus of this, but I think in real time now, those are some of the biggest concerns, you know, myself being a nurse, that I see in the world. You know.
Mark down if you're interested in this for yourself anyway. There's recently and ongoing, there's a lot of work being done with the helminthias, various types of worms for autoimmune diseases, and what that is pointing to. And I might be able to I might have at home somewhere a file on that. It's just in the last 3 months.
About that.
The idea behind this is that when, in the comparison of what's, okay, let me back. The comparison is to third world conditions where there's some benefit because they have much lower rates of various kinds of autoimmune diseases, and they end up getting various worms in their foodstuffs and contamination when they're young, and it changes the whole immune reactions basis so that they end up as an adults or even older children of not having that same immune reaction to different kind of things. In fact, another divergence is that polio in the 50s differentially hit middle class because cleanliness was next to godliness. And it was over-cleaning and not exposing children to the gentler, easier, less virulent version of poliomyelitis virus that just made kids a little sick in the intestine, that sort of thing, but then became immune to anything else as they got older, or when they're the more virulent part, they were immune to it. So I know there's some literature out on that.
You know, I
can't keep track.
I don't know if I read a small article, but I heard that specifically. Sorry, let me get you back. specifically in the instance of Crohn's disease is
Yes.
autoimmune.
Exactly.
And they did studies, and I don't even know where it was, but of people who had a certain type of intestinal worm, it was
Correct.
almost non-existent in them.
Correct.
So,
And this, I'll try to remember and make a note here for myself to see if I can find that article. And something like that would be fascinating for me.
yeah.
But, yeah, it's diabetes, but you see,
And diabetes-
you'd have to, if you did that, well, either one of these you could. You'd have to really, I want you to really narrow it down because you want to be able to say something,
Yeah,
I suppose, for me to judge, in 2 or 3 pages.
yeah.
You know, statement of problem in the first page, first paragraph, and then talk about what it is and what it really does, the mechanics of it, and then go on, like we said earlier about something.
Okay, I have a bit of a weird question for you.
Sure,
because I looked-
nothing's weird, man.
Well, no, I looked into this kind of stuff a lot, and I was listening to a seminar or something somebody gave, and they were saying when you were talking about like bacteria being drug resistant,
Mhm.
is that as a result of like the bacteria gaining something, or how does it change to become drug resistant?
Mm.
I hate to do that to you.
Actually, I wrote a paper on
There we go,
penicillin,
see?
amoxicillin.
That's why we can use each other.
Amoxicillin is penicillin and clavulanic acid. And they formulated it, and I cannot remember the specifics, so I'll try to dig the paper out. But it has something to do with the protein, basically the protein covering on the shell. And the bacteria became resistant to penicillin and could actually rebuild itself. And so they incorporated this clavulanic acid to override that, basically. And so it's the next form of penicillin. So it's like a tug of war back and forth. We use penicillin, the bacteria develops a resistance because it reverses whatever the penicillin has done to that bacteria, or it finds a way around it, and that's
more-
basically augmentin is what.
It's more technical than we're gonna get in most of these things, but
I was just-
listen, but it's right here. Pathogens of various persuasions earn their future by propagating through time. Now, what happens, and exactly what she was saying, is that especially people never, for any kind of thing, you know, it's bacterial, but they got something not sick, and then third world, and in fact, that case in India with the TB,
Mhm.
they said only about 25% of physicians are trained about when to give antibiotics. And so that's the thing, you can walk in Mexico anywhere and get it, not so much anymore, but you can get antibiotics just over the counter, whatever. So people take it for something, and what happens is it attacks some of those characters, but then they don't even take it for the whole course, that's the other side,
That's
for the whole time. But in between, these characters are reproducing every 20 minutes in all kinds of different forms popping up. Some are resistant to that. So they're the only ones that are going to survive that course of antibiotics. So then they make up the next generation in 20 minutes that is completely resistant to that if you try it again. So we're running out, again, of antibiotics at this point in the lab, especially for TB. And that,
TB is-
incidentally, TB is huge. This is the old disease come back again in new sheep's clothing, because we've just kind of forgotten it. Oh yeah, it's an old disease. In the old days, I grew up yet when people spit, you were fine. There were big public health things. You shouldn't spit. I mean, all that sort of stuff. People have forgotten all that now because it's a disease of the past. Well, Russia prisoners have the highest rate. Next to them is probably some other groups in Indonesia. So it has this kind of combination of interchanging stuff with people in prison life, and it heightens this business of arms race among pathogens.
And actually, TB has reappeared in some inner cities and in southern cities where
breeding in crowded
poverty
conditions and poverty increases. TB never disappeared in very poor people places and crowded living conditions. It just, in part, that they were out of the deal. You got
Yeah,
it. And what's your name?
Amanda.
Oh, okay, Amanda. We've been
Yeah.
in a little bit.
I think it's an infection that people hear a lot about is MRSA, but they don't realize what MRSA stands for is methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, which is basically a mutated form of staph that is resistant to methicillin, which was the drug of choice for a long time, and now it doesn't work anymore.
Okay, just get back to the syllabus. Let's decide, think about these issues, because that we talked about in terms of requirement. I will on Thursday just assign at random. You're responsible for the first 5 pages, next, that sort of thing, and we can come back as a group and talk about what was in that chapter. And really, then I can give you, as I suggested, I really lean that way. I mean, in this small group, I just don't feel right making up a test, taking time to give the test. But I could give out some questions, and you just hand them out to you, and you guys take them home, and you could see, well, I maybe need to pay a little more attention to this or this, I don't know. But I'd rather do that, and keep, and maybe have 2 of those for each. We'll see how many people we end up with here. In other words, there are 15 points for you to be a study the readings and be a lead discussant of whatever pages I assign you. But it's going to be it's going to be like a book group. I mean, I'm going to reread it too, and then somebody can talk about the lead discuss. But that doesn't mean the rest of us don't need to chip in, because I have to get a feel for how this group is doing, and I like this idea of a book group kind of thing. And we should be united in that. And if for some reason if this completely backfires, well, then I'll have to go back and play that game with a quiz over, this. Okay. Well, let's see. We'll decide Thursday. And let's see.
What do you
I don't have. How many books do we have out here? 1, 2, 3.
Everyone but me.
I'll tell you what, Amanda. I think today I got notice to arrive today these books, but I'll tell you from now till Thursday, and I should get them today.
Okay.
Why don't you just use mine,
Okay.
and so you don't get behind on the readings, because as I said earlier to the rest of the group, we've got to be fairly quick out of the chute.
I saw what the one that I saw this one for sure online that I was going to get. It's a site called Deal Lounge. It's like
Yeah. Well, I've got them all coming in.
I wasn't sure if that was the one, so I didn't get any of them.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I've got them all. They were supposed to have been here, but because of the holiday yesterday, they were supposed to be here yesterday. Well, I got this notice on UPS. This will be delivered.
Oh, I totally
Said
forgot about
today,
that.
18.
I rented all my textbooks. That's why I'm not
Okay.
here yet. Okay.
So, one short paper, we talked extensively about that, and we will continue to do that, so you can get up to speed with that. And then we'll probably then, if we don't do the quizzes, we'll have 2 of these studied readings and lead discussant assignment. And it just gives me a feel when you contribute. I don't mean you have to do it artificially. If you don't have anything to say, you're sick that day, don't make it feel. But if you've read it and say, well, I found this to be interesting, blah, blah, blah. Then, I want to participate, and we'll just see if we can originate it, have it come from you folks, have it rise. If we don't, I'm going to make it simple. Okay, so that's 3 quizzes are out, read and study assignment to take. Studied readings and lead discussant, 1 short 2-3 day paper on selected aspect. We can catch up with that, we can review. And then 1 short magazine or newspaper, a reputable internet site. I'll tell you a place that's really swift. If you haven't been on it, there's no reason you should. Science Daily, one word, .com. It's very up to date, and it's all, Science Daily.
Yeah, that's a good
.com. Because you go to the top of the leaderboard, and it has stuff, archaeology, anthropology,
astronomy.
It has all kinds of little buttons to get into specific kind of things that you can get through that.
Yeah.
And look for stuff. There's always something on it. And it's usually only a page long.
Yeah.
And, run it off and talk to us a little bit about it, and hand in to me, and maybe in some cases I'll just say, talk a little about this. It's pretty interesting. Dovetails of what we're doing or not doing.
We use that website for our astronomy class.
Well, sure.
Kind of to keep us current,
And there's a bunch of you guys, I know that you're all much further ahead on utilizing all this than I am. And I apologized earlier about my retro thing, but I'm going on PowerPoint.
Oh, no,
Okay.
I don't mind.
Okay.
I know. It's a lot simpler back in the days. And
So-
It mixes it up a little bit.
So here's, okay, grading, well, there's nobody in here. Johnny, Carson years ago was the night show host, and we used to do this. And it was hat on, he'd say, Carmack roll into. So I'm doing that right now. Only A's and B's in this course. Name the course. So there's no place for C's. I won't even worry about that. Tentative syllabus, if you'll turn to the readings. Rules of the road. Okay, we don't have to worry about cell phone. I didn't know when I typed this, the earlier version of how many we're going to get. Cautionary overview, we're doing that today of disease pathogen. Modeling disease, I still have some pretty important models to discuss here. We have a half hour. This class goes, from 1 to 2:30. Normally we'll take a little break in there, but I don't want to start out getting behind, and there's so much of this stuff that to get out. We'll see where we get. And it is an hour and a half, you see. Oh, I hope you knew that.
I didn't. I have to make a call at 2:15, sorry.
Okay. Because that way we fulfill, but we can miss a little bit. But in 5 weeks, February 17th we're done, or 16th, whatever that Thursday is. We're done with the course. Okay, but we're okay for some because 5 times 3. Oh yeah. Yeah, but we're more than 3, aren't we? We're 90 minutes. We're 180 minutes a week, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we can, it's up to us. I'm going to start. If we get where we want to get out that last week and not meet that Thursday, and we've got enough where I feel comfortable and covered, and/or sometimes quit at 2:15. That's fine with me. I mean, I'd rather go for quality than quantity, but and we are protected because I forgot for a moment. That's 180 minutes, not 150 a week. You have to. In other words, I have to meet so many minutes based on whatever that is. When normal class is 3 hours a week, we have to meet 15 hours. You see? So that gives us a little leeway. Okay, enough said. Chasing disease history. All right. I have my models I need to get out, but I need to tell you we're going to start on the Aberth text. I'll just call it the First Horseman text on Thursday. We won't get very far into it. But please, if you would, all read it. And the introduction is important because it sets the basis of the book, of course. And it chases down a few of these things that I alluded to but didn't really talk about. In other words, where we learn about disease, or history, and archaeology.
Still have it read by Thursday.
By Thursday.
What's like the introduction?
Yeah, the introduction, pages 1 to 10, and chapter 1. But you can move in chapter 1.
Oh, I didn't see them.
Yeah, can I borrow your book a second? Oh, you taking off for a second?
No, I'm not taking off.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get it.
I didn't see
Chapter
him.
1. Okay. Okay, first 5 pages of chapter 1. Everybody should read the introduction. Everybody should read chapter 1. Do not worry about going further than page 25. We will read and talk about those people writing at the time, but that's after that. Right now, Thursday, I know this, that we will not get through pages 1 through 25, but I want to assign the first pages 11 through 16 will be to Amanda. 16 through 20, and to the top of 21 will be you. And we're going to stop there for Thursday, okay? It also means that all of us need to read pages 1 through 26 for Thursday. Clear enough? Okay. If this works, and you could see how this is so too cumbersome to work with bigger groups, but okay, so we're set there.
So this is kind of like a graduate
It
Seminar.
is to me. I want
Yeah.
to conduct it more like a seminar, an adult thing with this small. I come up with book group idea because I was in one. Well, these are just a couple cartoons. I won't take time on those, but I love Gary
Oh,
Larson.
yeah, he's hilarious.
The first fatality is a result of there are different ways that nature can get you. Okay. And then I like this one, that's all. Bobby. Sometimes I do more of these because I'm waiting on the first day for people to find a classroom. There, first silent man on the
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things, you know, obviously though, as a fun, but to think about when we get to hunters and gatherers and talk about a lot of their health problems stem from hunting accidents, getting eaten by various animals, and then other kinds of infectious diseases, which we'll talk more about next time. Okay. What I want to go on to now for the rest of today is a model that some of which I've already talked to you about. And you'll have to situate yourself wherever you can. We can think of just ease as a set of interactions between three areas. The agent, it's often referred to in public health as the agent. We've been using the word pathogen. There's a bunch of things out there to get us. Viruses. Last I looked, there were over 300 to 400,000 types of viruses. Bacterial, and viruses are the most simple forms. You all know kind of basics of this. It's RNA, DNA wrapped in a little fatty sheet, basically, with various kinds of nucleic acid bases. And then bacteria, simple cell. Helminth, just put worms. Those are worms. We'll be talking about different diseases caused by them. Protozoans, little critters. Falciparum. Malaria falciparum is one example. That's the more deadly version, the virulent form that creates, very easily can create death, and is the primary malaria agent that causes death in folks contracting that. Then there's one that probably some, and the nurse gets to not say anything, a lesser known for most of us, prions. Prions are proteinaceous particles. Prions are parts of proteins that are disorganized. They're folded, all kinds of biochemical stuff about folded proteins. And here's the deal. You will see an overhead in just a moment on this. They cause BSE, bovine spongiform encephalopathy.